Happy today. I am William Brown from IamWilliamBrown.com. This is Disconnect to Connect One Word Conversations. The sponsor of the show is IamWilliamBrown.com, where you can find all items and conversations to help you be a better you. I set my intentions for this conversation through my U cards that are available on IamWilliamBrown.com. And there are three areas. There is the I am card, the you are card, and the quote card. So the cards that I picked for this show is I am purpose. I am purpose. You are lovable. I always like when that comes up. And the quote for today is from Mr. Rogers. It's you I like. I don't know if you remember that song. I remember that song as a kid. So it is you I like. And so with that, those intentions set for today, we are going to introduce the word for the day, and the word for today is future. This is an interesting word for me. One reason why is the too often I try to think about the future more than what I think about what is present, and sometimes that gets in the way. So, with that in mind, really having a conversation about future and how that's showing up in my life and in your life. I would love to hear from in your comments and that while we talk. But I will invite a friend in and we'll have a conversation. Good morning.
Good morning, Bill. How are you doing today?
I am doing great. This is the moment where I invite my guests to introduce themselves however it feels comfortable.
Well, thank you so much, Bill, for letting me come and be in your neighborhood today. I used to love to watch Mr. Rogers, and
Right.
so it was a time when life was just, you had that hope and you could enjoy something that was just positive and upright, and always learned a lesson through Mr. Rogers. So I think that's where the lifelong learning starts, when we're kids. But I'm Nancy White, and I'm a native Charlottean. I was born and raised here almost 68 years ago. And I've seen this city transition from one building downtown to just what we have today. But I have traveled around the world, Bill, but I have always lived in Charlotte, and so this is my home. And I left corporate America 37 years ago. I have to, well, moms especially, we always have to do our children, how old our children are when things
Right.
happen. So I left corporate America 37 years ago to become an entrepreneur, whatever that meant. And it's been a
Right.
learning experience ever since. But my heart and passion is really helping people in their healthy lifestyle to thrive and not just survive, both physically and financially, because they go hand in hand. So, again, I guess that's my introduction. I'm Nancy White. I've been networking for almost 20 years here and love helping people to find great connections and collaborations.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much. I don't know if you can hear within my neighborhood. There's some beautification happening, right? And so I didn't put the sign on the door that or it's
I'm
like I am
broadcasting.
recording live, right? So we can get through that. So it'll be beautiful after this. Um, so um, how does the word future show up in your life?
The word future has so many connotations, and just your imagination, like speaking of Mr. Rogers, your imagination just goes wild with it. But for me, future really starts with the past.
Hmm.
Everything in the past is coming to fruition, and today is yesterday's future, which, can blow your mind a little bit when you keep thinking about
Right.
it. But I think future is something that involves time. It involves hope. It involves a lot of things that we think about for our emotions. Um, and it does. It really involves hope, I think, Bill. And just, I think future's got a lot of things in this day and time, especially with the unknown. And
Right.
people are just having sometimes a little bit of struggle with the not knowing. I mean, we already don't know, what future holds for us, but even more so right now.
Right. No, I totally I get that. How future shows up for me is it's let's see, it's something that I'm lucky enough to experience, or I'm
Mhm.
blessed enough to experience. It is more of, last year my word was now, right? And so I read Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now, and really embraced that the only thing I have is today, is right
Mhm.
now. So what am I going to do right now? Um, and I posted something. I have muses on my Facebook. Every once in a while I'll say something wise, or something or interesting. But there's a meme that was, a popular saying that, what we do today will affect our future, right?
Mhm.
Um, and it's like I agree with that to on a level, but the more that I embrace what I do today will affect my today, then I'll show up for my today.
Mhm.
And so the future is something that I pray and hope that I'm a part of, but until I get present to today, there's like there's there's really no hope, or no there's no reason to even worry about or think about it. But that's how
Mhm.
that's me. That's
Mhm.
how I roll, as they say, right?
Yeah. And I think we have to plan, because if we stop planning, then that means that we really aren't looking ahead. We aren't, expecting and having that expectation that there will be a tomorrow or
Right.
next week or next year, or whatever. So
Right.
I think planning, especially for women, you've heard it probably said several times that women enjoy the planning process even more so than the actual date or the trip or vacation. It's the excitement of the planning and everything that, we are continually, just like you're talking about, are doing today were things that we've been prepared for. And,
Right.
our past doesn't dictate our future. And boy, we can see that in history, how people
Right.
have made some wise choices, or
Right.
even, when we look at the tax collector that became one of Jesus' disciples, and just, how our past doesn't have to dictate, but it does influence. And I
Right.
think our past are like our stepping stones for our future. And the
Right.
experiences that we get to go through and live to tell
Right.
are always things to help form our character, but they're always something to help somebody that's going to cross our path in the future, whether it's today or tomorrow.
Right. I'm really interested in, and trying to balance, that planning that you speak of, that I know that is very important, and I feel within my being that I need to, I don't want to say plan more, but at least get connected to the plans of my life, right?
Mhm.
The But how can I look to the future but live in the present? You know,
Yeah.
and just kind of balance that out. And is that just, playing with words, or is that something that, that's a important distinction?
I think it's an important distinction, because it's always actions. It's always, anytime. I'm very holistic. I'm healthy mind, body, and spirit. So it has to get into our mind, and then it gets into our heart, and then we take actions, whether it's for today or tomorrow. And so, talking about that balance, the things that we're doing today are going to affect tomorrow and future days also. And so, I think it's sort of a natural flow, because it's a heart and a mindset, Bill. I think
Right.
that, as we're going through today and we're doing our very best, we're want to receive all that we can receive so that we can give.
Right.
I think it is that I don't believe in the word balance, because to me, balance means for life, you're not moving, you're dead. So I think there's
Right.
a flow. I think there is, you go with the flow, you go with um, priorities. We keep, adjusting and making those little shifts. And
Hmm.
so, but I think the things that we do today in our heart and our mind know that it will affect tomorrow. I mean, it's like
Right.
even exercising and or nutrition or just working and doing those things that we
Right.
know are income producing activities,
Right.
whether it is doing that deed of kindness and sowing into somebody. You have no clue. We're not guaranteed tomorrow. So if
Right.
you've got a nudge to get in touch with somebody today, just to pick up the phone or text and going, I was thinking about you, just checking on you, whatever it is, you have no clue that that might be the last time that you speak to somebody. And
Right.
so I think that balance is just living today the best way we can with a pure heart without any ulterior motives. We do need to have intentions. We do need to have those goals.
Right.
You have to have a vision. It says without a
Right.
vision, the people perish. So I just have to
Yeah.
go with that.
Yeah. I think what there was something. It feels like maybe last month ago that there was something that I was kicking around or trying to get a better understanding of what my intentions are and what has my attention,
Mhm.
and really recognizing that whatever has my attention can control my if I see my intentions. And
Mhm.
so when I look at future, it is really I set the intention of something. I am saying this is how I want my life to go, or the things that I want to step into, the journey of something. And there's actions, there's steps that I need to take to move into that.
Mhm.
And so really most of the times when I have anxiety or fears and all that other kind of stuff, instead of putting together the steps, I kind of put together scenarios, right? Of this is going to happen, and this is going to happen, and this is going to, and it's just like, dude, just take a step, right? Right?
That's your logical brain, Bill. That's
Right,
your logical brain. Yeah. Hmm.
right. And so it's so, and that's why I said I used the word balance, but I don't know if there's a better word of just you know, looking to, understanding, are kind of playing out without what living there, with basically creating in that space.
Hmm.
Like, how much of a plan do we have to come up? And like I said, this is probably just a question for myself. Do we have to actually live into our future?
And I think that's individuals that they have to know themselves. They have to,
Right,
looking at those goals, reverse engineering those goals. What are the next steps, that we
right,
need to take to reach that goal? There is a practical side, there's
right,
a pacing side, there's a stopping. I wish I had my stop sign. There's a
right,
stopping that you just, when we start getting that overwhelmed, when we just start feeling that anxiety start building up, just stop for a few minutes and just
right,
take a breath and just get recentered. So many people will end up getting into almost a panic or mode or whatever, when all you got to do is just stop and reassess. And of course, all situations are different. I mean, if there's a dangerous situation, of course, we're going to take the actions or whatever. But
right,
what there's things that we have control over. We have to identify that and go, is this something I have control over? And that's a yes or a no. Is this something that if I do have control over, then what are my next steps, what I need to do? Who else do I need to have come in and be a part of this decision? And if you're married, then, we want to bring in those spouses. We just don't make our own decisions, especially it depends on how big they are. But
right,
I think, pacing and going with the flow. And when you talk about planning, we always want to do plans. We want things to flow with ease as much as possible. And that,
Right.
it doesn't just happen. I mean, we could sit on the beach and just watch those waves continually just come in and come in and come in. And they just do it, because of nature and everything that's doing it. But for our lives, we do have to make those conscious decisions to plan and to execute. And then when life happens, and it will,
Right.
and throws us into a little stumbling block, sort of like what we went through before we started today, then you just
Right.
go with the flow and, continue to go on. But I think it's very important for people, especially with children, to plan for the future because we want the very best for others. We want the
Right.
very best for ourselves. And that I think takes some planning for the future.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, because when I look at my goal setting and my planning and sometimes even my intentions, I recognize that the only thing the not the only thing, but the main things that I consistently do or I find consistent success in are not things that I've planned for, are not things that I had a goal about. It has been more about what I was committed to.
Mm-hmm.
And so the example that I have is like, I do a daily meditation. And I've had plans and I've had goals of, I want to reach these milestones and all this other kind
Mm-hmm.
of stuff. And year after year, I wouldn't reach those goals or all that. Something would come up, life would come up, and then I would be off and I kick myself and all that other kind of stuff. But as soon as I committed to myself that, meditation is important to me,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm committed to at least do 5 minutes a day of meditation, none of the other things, mattered. I've been, I've reached so many milestones because of just that commitment.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, sometimes it feels like there is a flow once you make a decision. There is so is that a part of the plan? Is that the plan without me knowing that it's just like, hey, just make a commitment and just kind of do that. But it doesn't have to be something grandiose, but it's just something that you really get committed to and then just kind of move from there.
And I agree with you completely. And I love your word committed instead of habits because everybody talks about, the most effective habits to have. And I
Right.
think it is commitment. You can't have a habit without being committed to it. And so there's things that just like that make your day flow better
Right.
by the
Right.
things that you have committed to. It's the same for myself. It's, my quiet time, my exercise, my nutrition. You set that platform to be able to have the best day that we can have. It doesn't mean that life doesn't happen and, we have ups and downs. But I think when people identify that, every single day we're doing our very best and God does the rest. And that's all we can do. But,
Right.
and not living haphazardly, but living with that intention.
Right.
We all know what's good for ourselves. I mean, when we're growing up, we have our parents that are guiding, informing us, and directing us, and putting boundaries around us to help us to learn and to thrive. And I think as adults, especially, we have to do the same thing. We have to
Right.
do it, but it's self instead of having somebody else. Now, we can encourage each other and cheer each other on. Some
Right.
husbands may call it nagging with wives, but we're just we're just doing
It comes in many
some
names, right? Right.
gentle reminders. And I remember my children as they became adults, and because when you have the gift of mercy and serving and all these things, sometimes it can cross that line a little bit of nagging or just reminding too much. And so somebody told me one time years ago, they said, I think I probably said something more than once or maybe twice. And they said, I think they heard you. And so
Right.
whether or not they wanted to, take the advice or suggestion or whatever. That was their choice. And so
Right.
that really laid on my heart and my mind. I thought, yes, I think they heard me and I can continue to love them, cheer them on or whatever. But you have to, comes a time when you're going, they get to make their own choices.
Yeah. So there's a lot of, you mentioned before that there is, life, life happens and there's things that come up that cause us to get off our plans and our goals and all that other kind of stuff. How do you, how do you manage just not being overwhelmed by the circumstances, life, so you can enjoy the future, you know
Hmm.
what I mean? Because sometimes it feels like there's so much going on that there. I'll speak for myself. It's like, okay, if this is it, I don't want it, right? If this, and so I think that there has to be something else. There has to be something else. So how can you help me figure that out, or is that something that you have been working on for yourself?
Oh, that's a lifelong working on because
Right.
we after we go through the reactive stage, when
Right.
something comes up, then especially when you're raising children when they're younger and you've got somebody else that's messing with your children. It's like throwing water on a wet hen. You don't mess with your kids. So
Right.
there's certain things that we have that reaction time.
Right.
Then we have that time we can just stop. And again, it depends. If I'm driving down the road and a car is coming right towards me, I'm not going to stop and go, oh, I wonder if he's going to get out of my way. I'm getting out of the way. And
Right.
so um, I think for when life happens, and it does happen, the unexpected,
Right.
we have to, first and foremost, just stop for just a moment if you can. I mean, and just, assess the situation. If somebody's bleeding or, whatever's going on, you have to be able to see really quickly, what is the next step? What's the next step? And then again, when you're working on a project or you're doing something and it's just sort of falling apart,
Right.
you just have to stop and just reassess and go, okay, is this something I really need to be involved in? If this is something I've committed to, what it is that I have to be able to get through. We all work with our timelines. I mean, we all got our phones and we work, our time blocking in our calendar. When those things happen, Bill, I think um, you just have to really either go with the flow. It's okay to be upset, and it just we don't want to do anything out of anger, but
Right.
it's an emotion, and it's a stress reliever. When we get angry, you just what are you going to do with that anger? You have to be able to um, handle it in a healthy manner.
Right.
Go punch up something, go punch a punching bag, go do whatever you need to do, as long as you're not doing something that's going to harm somebody else. So I think when life happens, and it does every single day, the unexpected, when we hear about, somebody that has just died, then, your heart goes out because we've all experienced people that have died in our lives that we've loved
Right.
dearly. But I don't know if that answers your question or not, other than, it's something, it's a choice every single day. Everything that
Right.
we're doing, we're saying yes to something, we're saying no to something else, and vice versa. We're saying no to
Right.
this, we're saying yes to this. So it's a heart and a mind attitude. And if we want to be ruffled and be agitated and be angry, then that's my choice. But I don't like that feeling. So I choose to be peaceful and content. And
Right.
when life happens, then I will go through those emotions and get back into my little peaceful, content self.
No, I get that. I think in some cases it comes into the, I guess, a mindset of either I'm creating my future or I'm just, you know, I guess
Mhm.
living into my future, and the difference. And so
Yeah.
is it's like the balance has come up. Maybe that's needs a word that I need to explore because I'm using it a lot. But it feels like there is the understanding of I'm whole and complete,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so not just my being, right? My life is whole and complete. And so my future in some cases, and I hope this doesn't get too like heady, because sometimes I said the one thing that I love about this show is you can see how my brain works and doesn't work, in real time, right?
Mm-hmm.
It feels like that I am just becoming aware of my life that already
Mm-hmm.
exists, and it's like it is just the more that I just live in that, the more that I see my future, the more that I see the rest of it, instead of that. And so it is some cases, I want to say, do I have choices, or am I creating, or am I just more aware and just living out my awareness?
Mm-hmm.
Versus that I've just made something up from nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know where that just went to, but I just really feel that you know the more that I look at future or the next by honoring my present, I can now see it. That I can have vision for it. I can, and I can basically take actions to live that out.
And I hear what you're saying too. It's just like, in the scripture it says, "I know the plans that I have for you," and you're saying, "Am I living into those plans? Is everything already laid out in concrete, and I'm just going through the motions?" I think it's a combination. I think it's a combination. I think that we have the freedom to make adjustments to those plans, whether it's good or not good, but I think that it's a process. I think we're always in a process of evolving. And I think, what the future holds for us are things. I don't know about you, but I don't ever have 2 days that are exactly alike. Every day has got
Right.
something that's different in it.
Right.
And so, but I do have hope for the future. And that's something I think that a lot of people today are feeling a little hopeless. And so, for my hope, this is for me. Whether I am here today and gone tomorrow, I know where my future lays because of my beliefs and my hope. But I think today we want to have hope. We want to have
Right.
hope that we're going to get to see our children have children and have grandchildren and have those relationships, those new relationships that are coming in every single day and
Right.
nurturing the older relationships. So I think hope has a lot to do with future, Bill. And I think that in this particular day and time, some people are getting a little weary, and because of the unknown and about what the future holds. But I think we're here to cheer each other on, to love and encourage each other, to use the gifts and the talents that they have, that will form and shape their futures.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. There's a number of things that I'm going to be announcing later on today, and that it's from a place of still having hope,
Hmm.
still believing in possibility, in spite of, and I think the one thing that I've embraced about uncertainty and the unknown is there that is always going to be present in my life.
Hmm.
And so not to the more that I sit with that, then there will become I will put myself in situations where well, things will become known to me and will have more certainty too.
Mm-hmm.
But there will always be an unknown and an uncertainty, a part of my life,
It's so
in my
true.
pr- in my present and in my future.
And there's always going to be the surprises, Bill. Always
Right.
going to be the surprises.
Abs-
And yeah. And so,
ab- ab-
and when those surprises come up, whether they're a good, surprise birthday party or a good surprise of, whatever it is, um, then I think, again, just like you're saying, there are ways that we can choose to accept it, to receive it, but also to look forward. I think, we people need to have things to look forward to. It's just like whether it's, a vacation time, a date night time, whatever it is
right.
time to get to be and to talk with your loved ones. When my son was in the military, way long ago before we had cell phones and things like that, it was always so much fun to have the surprise collect call in the middle of
Right.
the night, And so, but I think in this day and time too, people, some really don't like to have, those surprises where they get caught off guard. And those are the things that we get to, again, we get to choose how we're going to react, and we get to choose how we're going to embrace it. But I don't know. What do you think, Bill, about for children, especially right now, and looking at the future? Whether they have so much unknown about, whether they're going to be going to school,
Right.
school year round. But what do you think about helping the next generations too to see the future and not to feel paralyzed by the things that are going on right now?
Yeah. I mean, the simple answer is to know yourself, and I think you mentioned to that before, that the self awareness and the self love, and I think that's what the reason why I'm on this conversation about being yourself and living your life, and
Mm-hmm.
it is the more that we, even as kids, learn to appreciate themselves and love themselves and know how they are showing up, an awareness of themselves so they can show up in life. It really doesn't matter where they go to school, they're always going to be learning. It really
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter all the other things. And so the more that, and so that's why I believe the conversation is the self love and self discovery, and the conversations that you have around health and well being. It is more of that. Then it will bring us to a place where we can show up for the collective, our
Mm-hmm.
family, our communities, our country. And I think if we're worrying about as I say, the how,
Mm-hmm.
how is that going to happen? How is this going to? I think we're missing the point. And we're worrying about something that it, and I hate to say it, it doesn't matter. Because it does matter and it
It
doesn't
does.
matter.
It does.
You know, yeah, so
Well,
I
it
hope
is.
that answered your question,
It
right?
did. It
Right.
did. And I know you have such a heart for the next generation and for just teaching, children, especially about self love and self acceptance and the same that goes out. And, we've heard the old adage, that worry just robs today of its happiness, and it doesn't, do anything for tomorrow. And, sowing those seeds, um, harvest always comes in different times. We keep
Right.
sowing seeds, but the seeds are always, the harvest evolves over time. And so I think people want instant. They do. They want instant gratification.
Right.
Just everything has gotten to be where it's just instamatically. And so
Right.
I think during the last 3 months, it really slowed people down a lot. And some people are healthier. They're happier. They're still doing some things. And I've heard some discussions both ways going, people are going, I feel guilty because I'm really better off right now than I was. before, all this came about. And I
Right.
thought, you know what? You don't need to feel guilty. You need to be grateful and appreciative and use whatever it is to be able to help and sew in to other people. Because if you're
Right.
healthier and stronger, then you can help somebody else do some things
Right.
that they need to have help with. And so, but I just, I don't take it for granted or don't take it lightly. Um, People that have gone through some real struggles,
Right.
where they can see the future. They can't really see the future because of
Right.
the unknown, but we have to continually sow in the hope, because I mean, I've got tenacity. I was
Right.
raised with three brothers. I've got a competitive spirit. I'm not giving up. I mean, I'm going to
Right.
continue on. And I think that's something that we just have to encourage and cheer each other on for the future is, hold on to what you've got, build on what you've got, be
Right.
open to
Right.
learning something new that's, adjusting. And there's always, a silver lining if we're going to look for the silver lining. But again, I think the future is something that we want to continually, look forward in time, but know that what we're doing today does have an effect. The reaping and the sowing does have an effect
Right.
on our future.
Right. No, you know, I'm, I get that, and I'm getting that, if that
Mm,
makes sense, right? It's like
yeah.
the more that really comes to my awareness, the more that I can live into that. And so,
Mhm.
now like I said, I have a hope for the future. And yes, I believe my conversations are for the next generation, but it's
Mhm.
also for, and I've just recently embraced this, it's also for today's generation.
Mhm.
It's we have, in a moment, we can change our future. We can change how we see, our life. And the more information, and like you were saying, that we're open to it, the more that we can dream again and really have vision for the things that I think that we came with, right?
Mhm.
And instead of just accepting life as it is.
Yeah.
I had a conversation with our dear friend Lisa on Sunday about the word is,
Mhm.
and we talked about it is what it is until you change it.
Mhm.
We first, through the recognition of what is, then within that you can decide if you're going to plan or have goals to have a different future, a
Mhm.
different way of seeing this, your tomorrow.
Mhm.
And too often I see in our society, people just accepting this as reality, not just reality for now, but the reality of their future. And I think that's that's a dangerous place to be.
I agree. Yeah.
And
So
so, I think we can talk about this for hours, and then we won't be in the future. We'll be in the past, right?
I know
That's
it'll be
how
history.
quickly. That's right. Right. We'll be history. All right. Already. But is there any last thing or anything that has come up through our conversation that you want to leave everyone with?
I want to leave people with the hope of the future. And also, there's great ways to combat stress and the effects of stress. And anxiety and stress were already the number one thing in this country that was associated with the six top killers bill. And so when
Mm,
all this COVID and everything came out, it's like throwing gas on it. And so if people
mm,
would love just to get in touch with me and have a just a 20-minute conversation about some ways that they can handle stress, manage stress so it doesn't manage them. Would love to share
right.
with them some tips. And if they would just like to talk about their own healthy lifestyle, if there's things that I could help them with, make some suggestions, would love to. if there's people that they need to meet and to collaborate with, I would love just to be a listening ear and not tell you what to do, but just to be able to offer any kind of suggestions or any connections that I may have to share.
No, well, thank you very much. I know there is a level of wellness, there's a level of appreciation, there's a level of just generosity that you have for other people, and I just thank you for being here today and having this conversation with me.
Thank you so much, Bill. I've enjoyed our time together.
Okay, great. We'll say our goodbyes from the green room after the show, but this is great. Thank you. The future, and it's like too often, as I mentioned, I spend time living there and making scenarios and all that other kind of stuff instead of just looking to the future, planning for the future, but staying present to the now. Because what I do now can affect my future, but I still believe that what I do now affects my now. I would love to hear and see some of the comments that you have about future and the words and how life is occurring to you, because how you see your life, really how life occurs to you, will determine if you really do have hope for your future. The world wants you, the world needs you, and the world is waiting for you. So go be you. Have a great rest of the day, and hopefully you'll be able to see me later today when I have a conversation about the future. Blessings.